Okay, we're recording on the camera. We're recording on the podcast. It's time for Book Thoughts.
Duel.
Ready?
Is that what?
Stop.
Did that sound like a dragon's breathing?
Yes, it did. Taryn's upset.
Yeah.
No, wait. Tarn. His name's Tarn. I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Wait, it's not Taryn?
No.
It's Tarn?
Mm-hmm.
What? I'm not saying Tarn.
I don't know. I listened to a lady, and she's like, I'm from Scotland, so this is how you.
Tarn. No,
I
that
thought
makes sense.
I thought that's how you say it when you say his like full name.
Oh.
I have his full
Tarn
name in
Mina.
here.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, but I
Don't look
honestly,
at me then.
if I went by Google Docs, his name would be Train because every time I type it, it wants to do
Yeah.
Train.
Welcome to Book Thoughts. We are thoughts for books, and these are our thoughts on books. For the 4th episode, we're reviewing chapters 23 through 32 of Onyx Storm, the 3rd book of the Empyrean Series. This is part 4 of our 10-week journey diving into Onyx Storm.
We do have a content warning. Today's podcast is rated mature. We are Book Thoughts after all, so we're going to be using adult language, talking about adult topics. So please pay attention to who may be listening near you. This episode will contain spoilers for Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. We focus on specific chapters each episode, but our conversation will include the entirety of the series. So if you haven't read them, today's podcast is not for you. Lastly, I'm just going to apologize ahead of time. Maybe we, but definitely me and Ems, will at least mispronounce a name or a place. Emily will give you the recap and strip down of the chapters we're going to be reviewing today. And so I'm uncomfortable.
Get comfy so that we don't hear you messing with the mic 1,000
Don't you?
No, it's all the drops, too, that
Yeah.
happen.
She's like, oops, sorry, that's my computer. Oops, sorry, that's my Kindle. Oops, sorry. Chapter 23. This chapter starts with an excerpt that gives you the goosies. Thus, I'm going to quote it entirely. The uprising suddenly failed overnight on December 13th, 433 AU, in what has been called the Midnight Massacre. The foreign troops disappeared and the rebels were killed in their beds by Paramish forces. It is not their disappearance that strikes the scholar as particularly vicious, but their obvious betrayal. There is a saying in Deverelli, the word is the blood. When they make a trade, broker or deal, it is considered law. I cannot help but wonder what part of the deal the Crovlin rebels did not uphold. Subjugated the second uprising of the Crovlin people by Lieutenant Colonel Asher Sorngel. It makes me think of the Red Wedding of Game of Thrones.
100%.
Okay, I had to say that. I had to hit that. Covered in a canopy of trees, we are getting a closer look at the sensory feast that is the capital city of Deverelli. Mayas?
You definitely got that wrong. Matthias.
Matthias. The quest squad, or as the townspeople are calling them with disgust, the Firebringers, are quite a sight to behold. Drake is leading the group, Mira is on high alert, Kat is annoyed with Riddick is scared of horses, and Violet is checking out a happy Xaden. Yes, you heard that right, a happy Xaden. A happy Xaden is asking Dain questions and complimenting him. A happy Xaden that is talking about his love for riding horses and the beauty of Aracia. A happy Xaden that can't stop flirting with Violet. Maybe life is better without magic. After Xaden asks for help and mysteriously shoves a black velvet pouch in his pocket, they arrive at Tomes and Tales, where the merchant they are seeking deals with rare books. Riddick, Drake, and Kat are left to stand guard while Mira, Dain, and Xaden head in. Halden is still with the Keen. A bookstore made of dreams comes into focus, and so does the stifling heat. Violet approaches a not-so-welcoming shopkeeper and asks for Norel. This question triggers an anticlimactic fight, but what do you expect when it's a few people from a peaceful society against riders and flyers? These shopkeepers are hiding something, but what? Norel steps forward. She's a spicy elderly lady with silver hair and deep brown eyes. She scans Violet's hair and instantly knows. Violet is Asher's daughter, and she is here for the books he wrote for her. Did the excerpt give you the goosies?
I've never seen Game of Thrones or read it or anything to do with it.
Well,
She hasn't even seen what you sent earlier, which was the Hunger Games.
Hunger Games, Twilight.
We have a list for you.
Yeah, you gotta step up your game.
This is my first popular series besides the Sarah J. Maas one.
Aren't you so glad
With
we
the
dragged you
masses.
down this hole?
Honestly, I'm having a blast.
You honestly need to watch Game of Thrones just until you get to the Red Wedding, and then this would make you think of the Red Wedding. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, no, it did.
In this chapter, we see Mira get annoyed with Violet and Xaden's touchiness, and Drake calls her a killjoy. Do you think she is, or are they acting like horny teenagers?
No, I just loved it.
You loved it. You're
I
here
did
for
too. Yeah. Mira also says maybe Xaden just loves Violet, so he's not an asshole to her. While she is annoyed, she's still, big protective older sister. Like,
Yeah.
I can say something, but y'all better keep your fucking mouth shut.
The fact that Drake can stand up to her when he's like, do writers get nicknames once they earn their wings? Because I'm pretty sure yours would be Killjoy. Yeah, Mira, calm down.
So cute.
She wants to spray them with a water bottle like you do with a cat.
Yes.
Do you think Narelle's hair/eye color has any meaning? Meaning?
Yeah. It is a meeting, so you're good.
Yeah,
it
meeting
in.
with meaning.
I don't know. We said earlier we think that all hair and eye color correlates with something, so possibly.
It's hard to tell because of her age, too.
Like if it's just she has that color of hair because she is 90. What'd she say?
She was like 94 or 90 something.
She's in her 90s.
Yeah.
You said 93 in your next summary, so I'm thinking it's probably 93.
I'm thinking
Okay.
that's probably it. I thought it was funny that Riddick is scared of horses out of all things.
Just funny because, he's not scared of his dragon or other dragons, and that's what Kat's point was. She's like, are you kidding me? A rider's scared of a horse? And he's like, they bite. Like, what do dragons do? Literally,
They burn you alive.
incinerate you immediately. But sure, be afraid of a bite.
Chapter 24. He left books. That's what this bookshop was protecting. We learn a lot from this 93-year-old Spitfire named Narelle. We learn that her people call the continent Amaryllis, not Navarre. We learn that Devarelli doesn't worship gods. Instead, her people believe in science, coincidence, and alchemy, not love. Speaking of not love, Papa Sorengel must have thought Dain and Violet were in-game because he predicted that's who Violet would be with by this point. Thus, Narelle mistakes Xaden for Dain. This sends Mira into a laughing fit, Xaden into protective mode, and Violet into I have to defend my decision to my dead dad mode. Violet's dad hid these books with Narelle 4 years ago, with the sole purpose Violet finds it. The books are only for her, emphasis on not Mira. Before she can receive them, she must answer 3 questions. 1. What is the title of the manuscript he left for her? Easy. Everyone knows it subjugated the second uprising of the Krovlan people. Number 2. What is her hypothesis for Devarelli being the reason why the Krovlan uprising fell apart? Violet says Krovla didn't keep their part of whatever deal they made with Devarelli. The deal? Dragons. A public notice hinted at this, but the words were mixed up in translation. Feathertails were mistranslated to tell feathers. Number 3, what made Violet leave the prince? Narelle really wants the juicy details. Violet says she found him having sex with a professor. Violet didn't care about the crown, she knew her worth and left him. These answers are satisfactory. They leave the bookstore with 6 tomes by Violet's father, each passcode locked. Later that day, Violet is taking a bath alone, but not for long. Xaden knocks on the door and enters in nothing but a towel. Is this heading to where we think it's heading? He's being polite and making sure she isn't dizzy, sore, or tired. She is none of the above, but she's about to be.
Why is she so shocked by her calling them Amaryllis?
She's never heard of the continent referred to as that.
But I mean, they're the people of the continent, so wouldn't that technically just automatically dawn
Is
on
that what
you?
that means?
Yeah.
Doesn't it say later she has no clue, she's never heard it before?
Yeah.
It
It's
says
like why they
right
call
there.
the Krovlan uprising or the Krovlan people maybe, but why is that
I mean, this
shocking?
book is obviously not good with languages. None of them are good with languages because there's so many miscommunications around language.
And it sounds like Asher was the only one to really travel outside to learn anything more about the other continents.
Yeah, he's the only one that
maybe.
cared.
They were protecting the tomes left from other writers. No other writers were to be able to gain access to them except for Violet. So Asher had to predict that other writers were going to come at some point. other people are researching this. They're just apparently slow.
Hence why General Fuckface.
Yes.
Atos.
Mm-hmm.
He's just wanting Asher's journals and information.
He just
on the
knew
feather
about
tails.
his research.
He knows about the Feathertail research.
Yeah.
I think that's from Iron Flame. Violet realizes how interested he is in it. And she does bring it up again in these chapters to Dain. And Dain's like,
Not my dad.
what? My dad, who I actually hate and know is a piece of shit? What?
Wow, surprise, surprise.
In the excerpt at the beginning of this chapter, it says, she won't understand why you've kept her in the dark and you left too soon. This is all written by Mama Sorrengail. Can we just assume that it's about Papa Sorrengail? And why is there again emphasis on the relationship or bond between Mira and Violet? Makes me angry that there's emphasis on, hey, you guys really need to trust each other. But we are going to show favorites. We will keep secrets from each of you directly. But you guys need to trust each other.
Well, and Norel being very honest with Mira when Mira was kind of being testy that only Violet could carry and know these books were left to her. And she was like, honey, you have your own destiny and path to follow. And your mom prepared you specifically for that, where Asher chose her for these.
I know. She's like, I wonder what legacy you have to follow. Yeah. She kind of croaks like that.
That's the perfect voice for her.
Yeah, isn't it? An old lady. That was one of my questions is, do you feel bad for Mira, for a family that likes saying trust each other? They choose favorites.
They do choose favorites. Mira has a relationship with the mom that Violet will never know. And Violet, vice versa, with the dad. That does suck for each child. That would hurt. Mira is well within her right to be hurt that her father's excluded her, whereas Violet is well within hers to be upset at her mom.
I feel like they probably both feel excluded to some degree. It's just, unfortunately, the way Violet's mind works and how she was raised to try and be a scribe. I think she's able to kind of pick the clues that was left behind. So that's what makes her be able to catch those breadcrumbs versus you both are in the dark, fend for yourselves, but work together and try and make it to the end. I think it's just picking up on their strengths.
Yeah, they know they needed both strengths in
Yeah.
order to be successful.
I also think it's foreshadowing that we're going to see a lot more of Mira leading the charge in the next books. The
That'd be
next
awesome.
2 books, I guess. That's all the
I like it. Mira is one of my favorites.
I did highlight and thought it was interesting that Deverelli doesn't worship the gods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
That
did.
they're like considered the most neutral of the Isles. Perfect for trade is what Norel says. And she's just basically like, what you call the gods, we call science. And I kind of liked that aspect.
I almost wanted to label them as killjoys because they were like, we don't believe in love. We believe in alchemy. We believe in the chemistry behind love. We don't believe love exists almost. Well, what's the fun in that?
Yet she was wanting to know all the details.
She does believe that something else is created, though. I wonder if that's the bond that we keep questioning between Violet and Xaden. Norel says alchemy, 2 substances combined to make something entirely new, not unlike what's between the 2 of you. She glances between Xaden and me and sets her hand on her chest.
I'm here for it.
She may not believe in love technically, but she believes
in
something going on.
I have a theory forming. We've talked about it in the earlier episodes. This chapter hints that Dain studied the tactics of defeating Emerald Sea piracy. We know the sea is north. I looked at the map for the first time. The chapter before talks about how Violet and Dain rode horses when they were stationed somewhere that allowed it. Not ludicrous or lucrious because it was so cold. Are we getting hints that the next book we're going north is the north inevitable? And don't worry, this whole episode, I touch on the north anytime it hints at it.
I think so, because think about it. Grady only wants to go north. So at some point, they've got to at least try and check it out, maybe?
Yeah, I
We're
think
going to see
Venture
the
that
North
way?
Pole. The elves are coming.
I think we're going north. Chapter 25, the one you guys have all been waiting for. Love is stupid, marriage is evil, secure the bloodline. My summarized words of Finn Rorson, who sounds like a real dick. Now, back to Violet and Xaden. Minutes, hours, days, weeks of one are outpouring into a ravenous want for each other. This isn't romantic. This is bent-up lust leaping into action. There's no magic here, which means this is happening. Look, I'm not a professional writer, so insert sexy scene, bow chicka wow wow, broken table, etc. The lovemaking ceases with Violet wishing this was their forever. Xaden tells her that Sagel Bagel is in pain since she is in a place without magic. All of the dragons are. Their conversation is interrupted with a knock at the door from Riddick. He's not alone. It's Riddick, Kat, Dain, and Mira. Did they just hear everything? Does Violet care if they did? There's no time to think about it because Dain tells them Keen Cortland has decided to keep Halden. They have to act now. Violet is mortified when Mira learns about the broken armoire in this scene. So who is the one person you wouldn't want to hear you or know what you're doing during sexy time?
There's probably way more than one.
Well, you have to choose. You have to choose like the ultimate person.
Just one?
You have to choose one person.
You go first.
Yeah, you go first. I'm curious.
Probably gonna choose my dad. I would
gonna say
assume.
it's a
Dad
family
or
member,
mom.
right?
Mom, I could get over.
I-
Dad,
Yeah.
no.
Mom. Mom,
Dad's-
I could get over. I think.
Dad's a no for me. That's the worst. That would be the worst.
Mira talks about when they were at the base and they like couldn't control themselves. But like a sibling, I can get over. I'm like, okay, suck it up. You do it too. But with like a parent, I don't know. I have probably the same way. My mom, I'd be like, okay, so whatever. But my dad would be like, we'd never touch each other. I don't know what you're talking.
I don't have
Do
children.
you think he's listening to this podcast right now?
Oh, he's listening.
Yeah, both of our dads are going to
Yeah.
listen. So.
Yeah, he's an avid listener.
Well, way to
He
go.
counts how many times I cuss. Dad, this one's for you. I would be mortified if it was a group of people. But at the same time, you're in a place with no magic. So you know what just happened was loud. You broke what'd they break?
A table.
They broke a table.
Mhm.
That's not like a, shh, don't make any noises. We're going to break the table.
I just thought it was funny because apparently she covers her mouth to like muffle noise and then they break a table. I'm like, honey,
Like that was
there's
the loudest.
there's other noises happening
Yep.
that you should worry about.
Okay, on to the next. What do you think it means that the dragons are in pain without magic?
The only thing that I highlighted about that is Tarn said Andarna was fine and not in pain. He's experiencing discomfort, but he knows Andarna is not.
Because her power comes from the
'cause-
sky.
Because she's magic. She doesn't have to draw from it, where she probably was drawing from it because that's a learned thing, but she doesn't have to.
They're so reliant on their magic with their communication, Sigale and Taryn especially together and their bond, but also I don't think they've had to live without magic for so long that this is just something that's hurting them and like to their soul. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's just a different way to kind of interpret it. But with the bond, I feel bad because it's so much deeper. And they rely on that to communicate even with each other. And so it's, yes, I know that my loved one is far away, but I have no idea what they're going through. Whereas some of the other dragons, I feel like they do rely on magic for connections with their rider too. But wouldn't it be nice to kind of get away from it for a little bit too? I think that's what's cool about seeing Xaden's side of it on this chapter, where he's just like, you know, I have nothing to worry about here for once.
It must be like just such an odd feeling though, because even in the sexy scene leading up to it, she's talking about how much she wants the magic still, even in that moment.
We know the Venin die without being able to channel. And so the fact that the dragons are experiencing pain, is there a correlation there? Are they getting it the same way?
Don't they say later they think the dragons would die if they stayed without the magic?
Yeah, I think that is the ultimate problem that they're facing.
So where does the dragon's magic come from?
Well, I think there's a difference, obviously, between theirs and Darna's breed. That's kind of what they keep hinting at.
Also, when they have to go rescue Halden, I'm just keep them. They don't need to go get him. I don't care.
His whole attitude, that whole chapter where he's just, okay, so I have to be the snarky, like stuck up, but at the same time, let's do it because I can do it so well.
I thought it was cool because Xaden says he would just leave him. However, he has a weird
relationship or something.
Oh, because he has Auric.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
has
it's
that
Auric.
relationship with Auric.
He says, I'm really trying hard to be diplomatic since that's the role I've been handed. But let me put this in terms you'll understand. Your king kidnapped our asshole of a prince, and there's a large part of me that wouldn't mind him staying here and annoying the shit out of you for the rest of his miserable life. But that would make things difficult back home for someone I have complicated loyalty toward.
there.
And that's what he's talking about is Auric.
Yeah, I liked that because it shows Xaden still cares about other people outside of Violet. Right,
Yeah.
right then.
Chapter 26, The Rescue Mission. Violet, Taryn, Andarna, Sagel, and Xaden head to save Halden. On the way there, Violet asks Taryn if he and Andarna are in pain. He is, but pain will not hinder such a superior dragon as, and then he uses his formal name. It's a mouthful. Tarnianak. He also notes that Andarna shows no signs of trouble. That's suspicious. The four land near the palace and are greeted with guards and their silver-tipped spears. So much for a weaponless society. One of the guards declares that they will not be meeting with King Cortland the Fourth, ruler of Deverelli, master of the trade, keeper of the troths, justice of the tribunal, heir of antiquities. Or, I just call him Courtney. The king only meets with royalty. Little do the guards know they're in the presence of the Duke of Tyrandor and his consort, Violet. Did we miss something? They enter the open-aired palace, the word consort ringing in Violet's ears. Sitting at a table is the king, Takaris, and Halden. No sign of Captain Windshire. What did Halden do? He claims to have done nothing, but that seems like a lie since the king's dagger suddenly ends up in his hand. Wait, that's not the king's dagger, it's Xaden's. Halden tried to offer it to provoke Xaden. The king couldn't accept it since Halden's word was already broken. Now, Cortland just might keep Halden for ransom or blackmail against King Tari. Dessert is delivered as the tension is rising. The king's little ones arrive. Pure white panthers. Shire, Shinna, and Shora. What the hell are those names? Halden finally yanks the dagger out of his hand and starts dressing his wound, while Xaden tries to bring the conversation back to negotiations. King Cortland asks Xaden who he owes his loyalty to. His father was a rebel, and Xaden was too, yet Xaden's title was restored. So is it to Navarre or Tyrandor? The answer? One of the most quoted lines in all the book talk. My loyalty is to Violet first above everyone else, Xaden says. Then Tyrandor. Then Navarre in the moments it's worthy, usually when Violet is in residence. Xaden quickly changes subjects. With a deal on the table, trade would resume, and they would possibly even become an ally. Wrong. Deverelli has never involved themselves with Venin. Wars are no good for business. Supplying for wars, though, that's a money maker. They will remain neutral in all things and always have. That's how they, and I quote, maintain trade, commerce growth, and knowledge for the world no matter what god you worship or magic you can access. Violet has the balls to ask Cortland if the Venin were defeated or cured on this isle. He takes offense to this. His cats leap on the table and brush up against Violet. Time to serve dessert. Tonight's special, red meat and the head of Captain Anna Windshire, the personal guard of Halden. She was caught with 6 stolen treasures and a list of 5 more she needed to attain. The list was written in Halden's handwriting. Shit. As a last-ditch effort, Xaden tries to save the deal by forming it with Tyrandor, not Navarre. But it's too late. Hothead Halden is in a fit. Cortland orders everyone to be killed except Takaris. So much happens.
Cortland sounds a little bit hot-headed.
Oh, there's a lot of hotheads at that table.
I totally die when he calls her his consort, and she's like, what the actual fuck? That could have been, discussed. And then it's Taryn who, actually says, or congratulations.
Yeah.
Or commiseration.
Yeah.
Should Violet just marry him right now? I loved this banter as they're walking up to the back and forth of consort. Like, what?
Yes.
Am I your consort? I don't see no ring.
He was kind of joking, and it's not time for jokes. And he's, well, I mean, I may be saying it with a joking tone, but I'm dead serious. And she's like, it's just not the time. And he's, when is going to be the time then? Because this is our reality. And she's, oh, shit, you're right.
It was like the little hint out of a proposal. And it was kind of cute. I liked it.
It just goes back to when he said, I will use Tyrandor to protect you, not you to protect it. Okay, does Keen Cortland give crazy cat lady energy or what?
A little bit.
A little bit. Raise them since they were just cubs.
Just a little bit. What else has he got?
And Andarna shows up and she's got the cat in her mouth or whatever. And he's like, oh.
And the names of those cats? He gives just crazy person vibes in general, but definitely crazy cat lady.
I kind of liked the names. I know that's weird, but I just thought they were different. So I kind of liked them.
They
all sound the same. They're all the same, yeah.
Shire, Shinna, and Shora. Why is there emphasis on the fact they've been trading with them for centuries?
Because they weren't supposed to be. It was supposed to be nobody had contact. The last ones were Tyrandor that finally cut off trade.
So what do you think they've been trading? Just goods? Or do you think they've been trading military stuff?
Something maybe for knowledge.
I don't know. That had me completely in the dark. I feel like maybe it's going to be revealed later.
I think it makes her appreciate Arik a little bit more because he knew about it and decided to walk away from it. And then I think it gives her a little more disgust for Halden because he knows about it and he's been doing it.
He's been participating. And then he's going to go steal back whatever it was he gave them.
Well, she understands she can trust him too because remember, she like brings up, well, that's why he said, do you really trust anybody who's put in the power position, even if they have been trained, which would be Halden in this sense, or would you rather someone kind of fight for you or fight for what's right, which is the biggest thing they go through.
All right, one of my questions is, are you getting the 7th dragon breed vibes? And I have no clue what that means. Oh, I know what it is. They're basically saying at some point, we're not going to help you out because we gain nothing from it. Almost like the 7th dragon breed when we meet them later on are like, we're not going to help you fight this war because we're peacekeepers.
We're not weak. We can do our own stuff in our own way. We don't need your gods. We don't need your dragons. We don't need anything. Although it feels like they kind of want the dragons, right?
It kind of feels like all the oils want the dragons.
Kind of everybody wants a
the hot
dragon.
commodity. Get your dragons.
They want the babies.
Yes.
They don't want.
And then that gives the Isle magic. If they get the babies born,
they get the babies.
The babies born on the island equals magic. Right.
And then they also get to raise the feather tails like they want. They don't have the.
I would not want feather tails in Cortland's hands.
No, it'd be terrifying. He's clearly hot-headed.
I also picture him bald. I don't know. I just picture him looking evil. Just like an evil guy.
He's really young. He's just stupid.
You can be bald, young, and stupid.
I
believe
true.
those three can exist.
It is true. Maybe that's what it is.
Do you think the Venin were on the Isle? He denies it, but it doesn't have magic there. And I am starting to assume that if a place doesn't have magic, the Venin have been there and drained it.
But do we think Venin's the only thing that can drain the magic? That's all we've been shown so far.
You just opened up a can of worms.
I know. But it's something I keep questioning.
They keep calling them firebringers when they see the riders. Even without the dragons, they call them firebringers. Why is it
The problem is we don't know where magic comes from. We don't know where it goes, and we don't know how it got there.
What do we
The world
know?
building we still have to get through.
So much. Well, I feel like she could throw in a book where it is nothing about present day, and it's just a full book about the history.
Yeah.
I'd hate that.
At the same time, I would appreciate it.
Yeah.
And like it.
Yeah,
Like
I think it would give us some
answers to
insight.
questions.
It would be nice.
Before we move on to chapter 27, something I found that I just thought was cute. When Norel is asking about why she left the prince, she tells him the story of, she found him in a delicate situation. And she goes, what were you going to do? Punch out the crown prince of Navarre? And Dain was like, brows furrowed. Well, that's a good point. Like, I don't know that I would do that. And Xaden automatically answers, yes.
And I still
might, yeah. And this, ladies and gents, is the difference between Xaden and Dain. One is willing to fight for her no matter the rules it breaks. His love knows no bounds. He is enthralled by her mind, but enraptured by her stance on fighting for what's right. No matter the fight, he always has her back and is right there alongside her during the fight. And I just think that's so important between the two of them.
I don't think I could be with a Dain. I know that he's becoming a favorite for a lot of people. I couldn't. I need someone to break the rules for me.
I don't mind him being like a friend group. I'm
A best
glad that
friend.
she's over like that whole infatuation for him that she had as a child. Clearly she knows that she deserves better.
They're just not a fit. Because
Yeah.
somebody else might fit that. It's just
I
not
know.
Violet.
I should not have gotten the iced coffee. So good though.
You need some water? If you go grab some.
Nah. Water's for weak. And this episode is sponsored by Poor Decisions. Poor Decisions, you can make them any day. Chapter 27. This dinner is now a battle that Violet and Xaden have to fight their way out of. Fight, not kill. Killing is bad for international relations. Violet's conduit is yet again shattered as she is in a one-on-one fight with a guard. She is able to break free but ends up with a few bruises. They are outnumbered. Xaden takes stock of her injury and says, they're all fucking dead. Well, and then they all fucking die. But how? The alloy from Violet's conduit is now empty. Xaden killed all 12 of them with his shadows. He channeled again. Violet goes into full, I don't even know the right word, badass mode. She begins negotiations round 2. This time, she's leading, starting with Andarna's jaws around one of Cortland's kitties and threatening to end the other 2 cats' lives if he doesn't participate. She will also send the threat, aka Xaden, away while they negotiate. Violet gets Cortland to agree to the previous terms and gets Xaden pardoned of all crimes from the night. But she does agree that they owe him something for Halden's crimes. She offers him a dragon's eggshell, but not any dragon, Andarna's, the 7th dragon breed. Cortland doesn't believe Violet at first, but then sees Andarna blend with her surroundings. He agrees to the new deal and even has an idea of his own. There's another trade he wants to broker. Did Xaden do the right thing?
Do you expect anything less when you touch his woman? When she's in danger?
It wasn't even really the danger, though. It was like when he saw the bruise on her eye and then went into full Xaden Shadow Daddy mode.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they would have died if he hadn't channeled again?
The dragons probably would have had to get involved, and it probably would have been even less diplomatic.
Yeah, I was going to say there was nothing being left from here that was going to go well.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with his decision, probably, because it's emotional.
I picture him like a guilty little kid, though, afterwards, when he has to keep his head down.
I feel bad just because it's the dangerous fact of he's so close to turning ASIM.
When she offers the dragon shell to Cortland, it says, I set the base on the table and its pieces inside, marveling at how the shades of color graduate from the darkest onyx on bottom to the brightest silvers on top. I don't know what this means, but I feel like it means something.
Oh, it has to.
I think that that is a representation of maybe how, I don't know if it's how Xaden and Violet work together, or if it's Andarna is the key to curing Xaden and getting him back from the darkest of onyx to silver. I don't know, but I think it means something.
Well, I don't think you're wrong there. I think you could be onto something. Don't they also mention something about history, how the last time they had somebody with like a shadow wield and the lightning wheel that they were trying to pair together, they're like, something happened with the war. Clearly, we're back up to that again, but now these 2 people we know are in a bonded relationship and will do anything for each other.
And the
This
dragon
might turn
shell
out.
looking the exact same. I don't know.
Yes.
It has something to do with them.
It's dark and light.
Something to do with something. But I don't know. Maybe mean nothing. What's the deal with Unbriel? I mean, we've read the book. We knows what happens there. We knows
what happens.
Why do you think him knowing that they have to go there is what makes him think of a new deal he wants to form on his own? Is it because he knows about their like fortress, basically?
I need more info and we don't get it, so I can't help you.
I liked Xaden going into a full just rampage and Violet becoming the leader that we all know that she is becoming when she goes straight into brokering the deal with Cortland.
I almost wonder if, I mean, I know Xaden didn't plan any of this and he didn't do it on purpose, but giving Violet the chance to be the diplomat instead of him, knowing that he wants her to take over for him at some point.
If he kind of set it up. I mean, there are some people that think Xaden and Arik have had a plan since the very beginning of the book because Arik can foresee the future to some extent. So they work together on a plan.
I think it's somewhat possible. Xaden is making sure she comes with him. She says, you're going to have to go in this instance to talk with the king and get Halden back. And he says, we are going to go. And then he knows he has to say she's a consort to get her in there. He wants her there because he knows she needs to see the inner workings for herself.
I do think that Xaden and Arik have communicated multiple times behind what we've seen. There's just too much of Xaden plotting throughout this entire book leading up to the ending of what we get of him leaving, of him basically leaving Tyrandor to her. And he's already known her capabilities all along, but bringing her into those diplomatic meetings, showing that she is his consort, letting everyone see that and everyone knows that she is tied to him, but also to Tyrandor. It's not surprising that this was set up because he needed to know that she would be safe and that she would take care of his people, and that Ark was the only other person, because of Halden not being trustworthy, that could help save the kingdom.
There are also people out there that think Arik basically says he's gonna die. He's foreseen himself dying because he says, I'm gonna fight in this battle, I'll probably die.
Well, that's a downer. I didn't remember that.
I like Arik.
I do too.
I think he's a bigger part of the picture outside of the quest squad, but at the same time, his power is pretty intense, so you got to rely on that too. We just kind of quoted with him and Xaden having that interesting relationship. There is something there.
They're
like they have worked out some agreement, or they're working together, is kind of what I'm just leaving it as.
Chapter 28. 3 days later, Violet is sitting in battle brief. A lot has happened the 8 days they've been gone. The Venin are moving in Krovla again. Oof. Okay. Signizens?
Signeson?
That's a hard one. Signezen's flyer cadets arrived, and Imogen kept Violet's prisoner alive, Jack the Whack. Violet tells Rye, Sawyer, Kat, and Riddick that Cortland's other trade was for Xaden and Violet's services as weaponry. Speaking of Xaden, how many more times can he channel before there's permanent damage? He wasn't even safe in a place with no magic. Or Taryn reminds Violet that it was the Isle that was unsafe from him. The group's conversation is interrupted by Devera's battle brief. Devera asks Violet why the Venin moving southward is concerning. Ultimately, Violet thinks they know about the Eurasian wards. They're getting ready to attack once they fall. But how did they find out about the failing wards? A week passes and Violet is working overtime. She is constantly pushing her signet, body, and mind to their limits. Xaden is still gone, and Mira is on a personal leave for the first time in her entire career. Sitting with her squad at signet training, she is reading her dad's book since they leave in 1 week for Umbriel. Being near Garrick, she's reminded of his second signet and quietly asks Bodhi about his, but he denies having one, just like Xaden doesn't have one. Lynx, Baylor, Avalon, Sloan, and Eric and Kai show up unannounced. They aren't there for the lesson. The first years want to help with the mission, but to be honest, I could care less about them wanting to help and more about the tension between Sloan and Dain. Is that what we think it is? After a heartfelt plea from Sloan where we learn she isn't training her signet, Violet agrees to let them help with the research and shoves books into each of their hands. Eric hangs back, asking Violet how badly his brother screwed up the mission. Pulling him off to the side, she explains that Halden was Halden. This doesn't surprise Eric, but still weighs him with guilt nonetheless. He looks Violet straight in the eyes and asks, "Are you in over your head, Violet?" She answers, no. Violet turns back to the second and third years, who are arguing over a map. The time it's going to take to visit all of the Isles is way more than 5 months. They don't have more than 5 months to spare. Interesting read. That's right, Xaden is back. I don't know what Xaden sounds like. I was like,
dark, broody, and sexy.
Yeah. Interesting read.
Oh, God.
That's it.
I don't.
Okay.
Can't be it for me.
That's right. Xaden is back. He looks good, but Violet notices something off about his eyes. The gold flecks are still amber. Xaden opens the bond and they're back to speaking mind to mind. Oh, how they've missed this. But what they haven't missed is the rules of Beskiath. Freaking Codex. Violet decides they will disobey the direct orders of reporting back to the Serenaeum between Isles, cutting down their time and hopefully finding a cure faster. Bodhi senses Violet's urgency, but doesn't understand why. Violet explains. Bodhi hands Violet 2 vials, one marked A and the other S, serum and antidote. Violet is starting to recognize she may actually have to use it. Meanwhile, on the mat, a second year is trying to defend herself from a fire signet and failing. Getting desperate, she channels right there on the mat. Without question, Carr executes her on sight. They need to find a cure. It specifically notes that Rye is reading about weather patterns in the continent. How much do you think weather plays a role in this? Violet can't handle heat. Anytime something is happening with her, storms approach, even with Mama Sorengel,
Yeah.
dead. What does the weather mean? What does it do? How does it come about?
Knowing that Lilith's gone and knowing now that Theophany can wield weather and storms, that's all I keep thinking about. I'm like, is she closer than you realize? Is she manipulating you in more ways than just your dreams?
Was it Theo that sent the storm when she crossed the parapet?
Oh my gosh, that's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
I was like, was it her
What's in
hiding
this
the
here?
scribe robes?
And Violet, it's so many times she's like about to pass out when she gets too hot. Are they going to go north? Does she belong north?
But Andarna doesn't like the cold.
No,
That's true.
she doesn't.
What's up with Xaden's signet? Is it growing because he's Venin? Does he have a third signet? I actually have rebuked. What's the word? Rebuked, right?
Yeah, that's a word.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he has a third signet anymore. I think his signet is getting stronger because when you're Venin, it's just like the power is unlimited.
Seems like their depth of channeling or their depth of magic is so significantly more because Jack, when he was being asked all those questions, kind of goes into it's all about your abilities.
Is it Xaden's signet that's changing, or is Violet pushing her thoughts into Xaden? That's another theory, that Violet, part of her signet is she can push her thoughts into your mind.
Kind of like Xaden can.
Can Xaden do that? Or is it actually Violet?
They can both show each other memories. I don't know about the thought thing.
But in this specific chapter, she's thinking something and he finishes the sentence. So did she project that thought into his mind, or did he read her mind?
I don't know, because it's also just between those two. And we don't know what's so special about their bond yet.
We're seeing so many channel though. That's surprising.
It's surprising to me that there isn't more of an issue to begin with, because I would almost feel like 50% of people who are desperate and dying would channel to try to live.
Maybe that's the point. Maybe they do. We do know that there's a bunch of Venin just hiding in plain sight.
That's true. Do you wish you could speak to your partner mind to mind, or are you okay not having that bond?
There
I'd
are-
be dirty the entire time. I'd be like,
You'd be dirty the entire
Oh,
time?
yeah. I
No,
would
I
be
feel like
an-
they'd be dirty the entire time. Just like, get out. I'm shutting the bond down.
they gotta have it both ways. That way you can tease them, they can tease you, and that's kind of what I loved about Xaden and Violet anyway, where they could just kind of
Tease each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
What do you-
also share those thoughts that they can't share with other people when they're like, "What are we doing here?"
Yeah.
What do you think it looks like when they're talking mind to mind and everyone's around them? Do you think they're just like,
I think it's very obvious
Yeah.
some of the times, for sure.
are they
Well-
even looking at each other?
No, because sometimes, at least one example, Xaden was in front of the whole class of students teaching and they were doing it.
Yeah.
And then he, you know,
I'd be cool with it as long as I could shut it down, because if I was trying to do something and
well, they have that ability.
Right.
Most times in books, when they have that ability, they can lock each other out, which I like. I would need that too. I need my space. But
yeah.
also, I would very much enjoy being able to tease or just,
I mean, if you've been with your partner long enough, you basically already do have a silent bond because you know what they're thinking. Why do you think Auric asks Violet if she's in over her head?
I think he's afraid that she doesn't have the boundary set in place, and she's worried, or he's worried that she's not remembering her promise to Xaden.
I think also he can see her fatigue. He knows
Yeah.
everything she's doing. She's burning 12 candles at both ends right now.
12 candles.
It's not just one. She's doing a lot.
Even Taryn's worried about her. He keeps saying you need to stop biting off more than you can chew. He's worried he's going to lose her again, and so he keeps trying to remind her, don't dig any deeper.
Do you-
But could that also be because she could also channel if she hits to that point?
Yeah, he probably is worried about that. Although she's been tempted before and resisted.
Yeah.
Do you think Bodhi has a second signet and he's just not telling us?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You think that was sarcastic? We can assume that no one else knows except Violet that Xaden has a second signet. So was he being sarcastic or serious?
No, I think more people than just. You
He-
think only Violet knows about
I mean,
his?
when he does tell Violet, he tells Violet that no one else knows, and it never shows
Oh,
or
I guess
tells.
that's true.
That's true. But I mean, Bodhi has to know that Garrick does because they're super close.
I guess
And
that's,
I would
yeah.
think that they would have known Liam does since Violet saw Liam.
Just weird that he specifically said just like Xaden doesn't.
I thought Garrick had known about it, but you're right. No one knows until he reveals it to her. And
They might know he has a second signet. They just don't know what it is specifically.
right.
So maybe Bodhi's keeping his a secret as well. Aren't they cousins?
Bodhi and Xaden? Yeah.
That's why they look so much alike. They're actually twins separated at birth.
I mean, what if, though?
Chapter 29. 10 days later, Violet has everything packed and in place to leave for Unbriel and not come back until they visited all of the Isles. They've added 2 more members to the quest squad, Marin and Traeger. Mira is back from her leave as well. Where did she come from? Where did she go? Where did she come from? Conai Joe.
Go?
No, but we really don't know at this point where she was on leave, so that's still up in the air. Halden walks up to the fight field and instantly notices the larger packs. Xaden still hasn't let go of how Halden acted during the last trip, so there's some tension and even confrontation. Before it can get out of hand, Arik shows up. Arik has decided he will be taking his brother's place. We won't miss Halden, but we will miss that mental image of him in his basket. The journey is hard without magic, so they take several stops to rest. Mira is taking the time to figure out which runes work off the continent and which ones don't. Meanwhile, as the readers, we're just trying to figure out how runes work. After flying for 12 straight hours, they spot the first port city off the Isle of Dune. Flying past it by a couple of miles, Terran and Violet land in a meadow. Once Terran declares the coast is clear, the others land. They set up camp for the night. While building a fire, Violet notices a new bracelet on Mira that has familiar knotwork and smells of parchment for a split second. She asks Mira where she went on leave. She went to go see their grandmother, Narnia? It's clear there was bad blood between Mama and Papa Sorngale and the grandmother. Mira knows why, but isn't sharing. The quest squad takes shifts keeping watch that night. Violet awakes to Terran shouting, "Rise!" Their plan worked. Being bait paid off. Are you touched by Halden asking everyone to protect his brother, or...
So over this kid.
Yeah.
The basket scene was by far exactly how we all felt.
Yeah. It maybe was a shot at trying to humanize him a little bit when he's like, Violet, take care of my brother. I'm holding you and everyone else to it.
I just think he's a jackass.
What's up with this bracelet that Mira is wearing that faintly smells of parchment? At this point, we don't know it, but Mira thinks that Violet might turn Venin, so maybe it's to ward off Venin, or maybe it's a bracelet her dad wore.
I'm so ready to meet the grandma. I can't even, because I want to know what she disagreed with that happened or what they disagreed with she wanted them to do.
Wasn't it the dedication?
But like, why?
What's the story behind it?
What's going on?
I don't understand why Mira and Violet are keeping things from each other. It makes no sense.
It's repeating with Mama and Papa.
Mama and Papa.
Sorengale keeping things from each other. And now the children that they've chosen to take their places are doing the same thing. We're seeing history just completely repeat itself.
Do what we say
again.
and not what we do.
Yeah.
Well, and all they keep saying is you guys need to rely on that bond. Hopefully you guys can fight this battle together.
I think they are trusting each other.
Yeah.
I think that
But not with all the information they need.
But why doesn't Mira just say, I went to visit Grandma? Grandma thinks that you are possibly going to become Venin. So I'm scared now and I wear this parchment ruined bracelet. It's like a Swifty bestie bracelet.
I didn't get you
Can
one,
we make
though.
one of those?
Yeah.
It's funny because Mira gets one and she doesn't get one for Violet. Is she trying to rub in her face like, look, I have something special? Or...
You might have mom and dad, but I have the grandma we never spoke to. So in your face.
We just keep coming up with more questions.
I know.
That's all this leads to.
Yeah. Welcome to our podcast. We just ask questions. Please, someone answer them. Please. Rebecca, if you're listening.
We're just like all the other readers. We're trying to dive in, pick out things, and then at the end of the day, we're like, we have more questions than we started with, and now we still need to know because our theories are just going everywhere at this point.
When I reread it, I pick up on more things that I didn't notice the first time, but then I pick up on questions I didn't notice the first time that were even there. Chapter 30. A couple dozen soldiers on horseback surround the quest squad. I feel like we should be worried, but Indarna nonchalantly talking about eating their horses eases our nerves. The soldiers all look the same height, build, and hair. The leader of the group tells Violet and them to leave in the common tongue. Dain is cursing all of the days he spent studying new languages. The leader thinks they are unworthy to meet the queen since it was far too easy to surround them. The dragons and Gryphons walk out right on cue. The plan is working. A man pisses himself at the sight of Terran. Funny as this is, we know they haven't seen dragons, and Darnell's family is not on this isle, but they still need to meet with the queen. The leader of the soldiers finally agrees to take them where they will be challenged, but only if they bring half the group. Violet chooses Xaden, Auric, Cat, and Dain. The rest stay behind. Headed to Istal, the capital of Umbriel, Violet notices how the city was made to be able to fight dragons. Highly suspicious for a people who have never even seen dragons. The whole city seems like it was made for combat. There are even soldiers inside the fortified walls ready to defend. While being escorted to where they will partake in the trial, Violet notices the emblem of Dune, 2 crossed swords gripped in the center by a claw. The symbol for the continent also has a claw in it, which suggests a common origin. They are brought to a plaza in front of a giant temple. There are 6 pillars holding the front of the temple, each labeled with a different symbol: sword, shield, fire, water, claw, book. All tools of warfare. Blue-robed attendants are on the temple steps. Every single one of them has silver hair. Do you think you would piss yourself in front of a dragon?
Yeah. If I saw one, wouldn't you?
I was just talking about this with Garrett last night because if you run, the dragon torches you and kills you. And he's like, what? Why would they do that? And then also, if you know that's going to happen, why would you run? Think about being in front of a dragon who's the size of a fucking building and it being alive. Like,
Looks at you and it's steam.
you're gonna be scared. You're
Yeah.
gonna do. I'd probably piss myself.
Or if
I
it
just
lands,
don't think that would be a reaction for me. Maybe shit myself, but I don't know about piss.
Well, if it like stands in front of you and is like sizing you up, are you worthy or are you just a snack?
I believe in myself enough that I would be a rider.
From this point of view.
Yeah, no, if you were the soldier.
Yes, being the
never
soldier, never seeing it, not having it.
Which we would be also in that group of people because I don't know about you guys, I've never seen a dragon out in the wild. Do you find it interesting that one of the pillars was claw? They haven't seen dragons, or they haven't seen dragons for centuries, yet they keep claw as a pillar.
I do think it's interesting that they still use the claw. Like,
Yes.
it just seems that it's represented everywhere, even though the dragons are only in one place.
They're all scared of dragons. They all want dragons. They all have never seen dragons unless they're on the continent.
Dragons all the power.
They're the secret to it all. We know sword.
Mm-hmm.
We know shield. Do we know fire and water? We know claw. We know book.
I don't think we have seen all of them yet, but I think that's what's interesting of them being able to point that out because they're everywhere. And like you said, they haven't supposedly seen dragons before yet. They have the markings. So where did this come from? Other than just maybe from history, but at the same time.
Well, and their crest also has a claw. Like the
Yeah.
continent's crest has a claw. The dragons are the beginning and the end.
They're the good and the bad.
They're the good and the bad.
Look what this is doing to Emily.
It's killing me today. I want to know everything.
This was a lot. These chapters were a
Mhm.
lot.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah, that I didn't really catch in my first read through because I was
Speed reading.
speed reader.
Well, especially when you just get into it, you're just kind of like page.
Yeah.
Like I just need to keep going until I have the end, and then after I've dissolved all of that, I need to take a second, understand what just happened, and then go back and straight.
That's why I
Yeah.
enjoy rereading, though, because the first time it's just everything goes over my head. I
Mhm.
take it as face value. And then going back through, especially doing a podcast now, I try to find deeper meaning in everything.
Yeah, you dissect everything.
Welcome.
Yeah.
It's
Welcome to your
fun.
just life.
This is my world.
Chapter 31. Violet is shocked to her core. All of the attendants have silver hair. An attendant claps twice and children run out in matching robes. A little girl with a silver-tipped braid catches Violet's attention. Is this little girl exactly like Violet? A general and a high priestess step out of a tunnel. The general confirms they really do want an audience with their queen. Do we? Violet says we do, and that they will respect the customs to get it. Dain translates. A storm is forming overhead. The commander claps twice, and 3 soldiers step forward. Helga and the Buff twins. Maybe Xaden shouldn't be fighting one of these soldiers. They look beyond intimidating. Dain tries to translate some more, but fails. Good thing Auric steps up. Apparently, he can speak flawless Umbrish. Auric tries to offer himself as the challenger, but Violet and Xaden put an end to that. Xaden will be the challenger. Costa, one of the Buff twins, is picked as Xaden's opponent. The priestess cuts into his arm as payment to the goddess of war. She must do the same to Xaden. As she gets closer, Violet notes a tattoo of Dune's emblem on her forehead. Who else do we know with a forehead tattoo? She's also cracked out on something because Violet notes her dilated pupils. Violet is no longer second-guessing this decision. She's quadruple guessing at this point. Can Xaden beat him without magic? The priestess declares it's time to pick a weapon, and Violet notes Xaden is fighting without his greatest one, Sagel Bagel. The priestess agrees, shows she has decided that Xaden shouldn't fight alone. Cutting his arm through his uniform, she adds Dain to the fight. The second Buff twin, Palta, is chosen as his opponent. The priestess turns back to Violet and asks her if she chose her path. Violet responds with, I chose my life. The priestess then drops a truth bomb in our laps by saying then it's good they didn't complete Violet's dedication, and rambles on how she wonders if Violet yearns for the temple and that it's not too late for Violet to choose Dune as a path. What is happening? Violet answers with, I choose him. The priestess responds, so be it. Our goddess teaches that while battles may be won by the strongest warriors, they may also be lost by our weakest. Both must be tested today. She slits Violet's arm. Violet is fighting after all.
I honestly think that the whole dedication thing has to play a bigger role with the gods, because why else would her dad rush her in the dead of night practically for this, even if it was a partial dedication, since we don't know the full extent of it. I want to spend more time here learning, and I know everybody does.
Yeah.
So there's just so much to unpack there.
I want to know if Papa Sorrengail had to go through all of these trials too. He wrote about them, so he had to have seen them happen, or at least ask questions about them. But in all these isles, did he go through the same thing to get entry?
Someone on the internet, and I don't know if I saved it or not, because props to them for going this far in depth, said that the reason why the grandma is upset and the reason why he did rush her and trust Dune and the priestess is because Mama Sorrengail, Lilith, is from Dune.
That's what you said, but then that makes, how old does that make him and how old does that make her? Because she, when you become like a dragon rider, don't you enter it at 18, 19?
Well, we know that Asher has had a different name that he goes by. While he was out there, found Mama Sorrengail at Dune's temple.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
And that's where we discussed that he might have groomed her, because that would have made him so much older than Violet's mom.
Well, we do know that Venin apparently can live for extended time periods.
Yes.
Because of how old Theophany is. If we go back to that, we think Papa Sorrengail is Venin, or possibly both of them.
Maybe you're just all born Venin and then turn to human.
I think that the gods are going to play a large role in that we're going to get to learn why the dragons think they're puny. Did confrontation actually start with between the gods and the dragons?
And then it trickled down to the humans.
Yeah. And now the dragons are using the humans that the gods put here.
Well, and to your point, what all goes into a dedication? Does that mean that she's half god?
She definitely has her favor.
What is that song you'd sing in elementary where it was like, Pan, Pan, one half goat, the other half? Did you guys sing that?
Nope.
Okay, never mind.
You're alone.
Sorry. He was half goat and half man.
Oh, yeah.
Pan, Pan.
I don't know
one
this.
half man,
Yeah.
the other half goat.
I don't know the song, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I do too.
Yes.
I don't remember the song.
But it got stuck in my head because it's like Violet, Violet, one half god, the other half woman.
It's why
you might be onto something. That might be the shadow wielder, the lightning wielder, the whatever.
And
they
maybe
might be God chosen.
Screw signets. Maybe that means her power is just endless and that she has the power of the sky along with the lightning.
What if it's just the gods granting them powers because of those favors? That's why Theo's ending is so, well, bitch, you chose poorly.
Yes. What you see at the temple, she like got really scared. It was one of the Irids, or was it because she was at the temple,
She was
the god
at-
she turned away from?
Yeah, because she's Venin, and then she was present in Dune's temple or by it, which is, it's a no-go apparently because that's her downfall.
Yeah.
Which Ark foresees, which is super cool.
A raindrop hits the stone the same time as the first drop of blood is dedicated, so a storm is coming. There's thunder. Why? Why is there always a storm when Violet needs it? Who's sending the storms?
I just had a really random thought, and it literally
Give it. I just sang
now.
about Pan, so
Okay.
you go ahead.
So what if Dune is connected to weather? Theophany, weather wielder, Dune priestess. Mama Sorengale, storm wielder, and also worship Dune the most.
The storm always comes into play. It always saves her, almost in a sense. It's almost like a comfort. Her mom was a storm wielder. She's fighting a person that wields storm.
I
She
don't
wields lightning. Rye's looking into weather patterns.
Dear God, Rye, come back.
They're gonna go
Where
north.
are you?
Re?
Ugh, I said it
you-
right.
and you
Dang
ma-
it.
you
And-
pulled
and
me
I
right
did.
in.
If you guys read Akatar, I say Rye and Ryzen, not Reese and Reasoned. Reasoned. Chapter 32. Violet will fight Marlis. Everyone is shocked. Violet is angry. She is not weak. The weapon choice has to be the same for all three, so Xaden chooses daggers, trying to give Violet any advantage. Everyone gets into position facing their opponent. The commander says to begin. Violet manages a slice across Marlis's ribs, but at the same time, Marlis stabs her, cracking a rib. The dagger bounces off the dragon scale armor, but the pain is still there. The fight continues, and Violet uses her agility to get Marlis to the ground. As she is asking her to yield, she sees that Costa is seconds away from plunging a dagger in Xaden's throat. She throws her dagger into Costa's shoulder, giving Xaden time to break free. Violet then immediately replaces the thrown dagger with a new one and asks Marlis to yield again. She still refuses, and Violet's anger rises. The rain is now sizzling on her skin. She asks again, and this time her question is accompanied by 2 lightning strikes. Fear is spread across Marla's face, and she finally yields. The fight is over. Did she just use her signet? Turns out Marlis is the queen, and Violet just won her time. Violet first asks about the 7th dragon breed. Marlis knows of no such thing. Second, Violet asks for allies. The queen laughs. Violet can't pay the price it would take for them to fight alongside Navarre. Violet says to name her price. The price? Dragons.
They always want the dragons.
They do.
I don't blame them though. This is war, and they want an advantage. They've been wanting dragons. They know that that'll turn their tides for them, especially with magic.
Yeah, could you imagine if all the isles had dragons? They'd be just as powerful as the continent.
What if they all did used to have dragons? Because I feel like they all
had to
did.
because they all have the dragon crossbolt things.
They are all prepared to fight dragons, so they all had to have them at some point.
So why did they lose them? What happened?
Maybe the Empyrean decided to happen
because you guys are all batshit crazy.
Yeah,
so
like,
we're leaving.
You and your stupid gods are trying to control us, and now we're gonna take control, and we're gonna be in charge, and we're gonna create Venin by accident by doing this.
Because you'll want for magic so much. So the craziest thing in this chapter, Violet, she looks up at the goddess of war over the temple, and she thinks Andarna is blending into the eyes of the goddess because she sees a little bit of gold in the eye of the goddess. But then it says Andarna is standing between Sagelbagel and Taryn. Was that the actual goddess, like, kind of winking at Violet, saying, hey, I'm looking out for you? Gold is also what does represent Andarna. So we got 2 gold things here.
Yeah.
The golden eyes of the people of Dune. They all have golden eyes too, it says. And Darna's whole spirit, her anger is gold. Everything is gold around her. So what is the connection here?
Maybe that's why there was the storm after the dedication with the blood drop. It was the
goddess
god.
sending it because she favors Violet.
Or she's giving Violet power because Violet's skin heats up, which it does when she channels. Or not channels. Is that
She wields.
Yeah,
Wields.
thank you.
Yeah.
She's not Venin yet.
She's not going to be. It's all going to be fine. Everybody's going to be cured. It's going to be good.
The gold has we focus on the color of hair and eyes, and
Mhm.
it specifically says that she thinks she sees gold in the goddess's eyes, and she just assumes it's Andarna. But I think it's the goddess kind of like winking at her, like, hey, I got you here. Don't
Well-
you worry, sweetheart.
That's her favorite thing about Xaden's eyes, too, is the gold flecks.
But gold just always accompanies Andarna. And then, so it accompanies these people of this isle, and then she sees it in her eyes right before she's about to fight.
Or it represents magic touched or God touched.
The golden. Andarna is the
Is that
god
why
of all
they-
dragons.
Is that why they can also be transparent?
I don't know. Well,
And it does say that they are magic. Are they magic because they are the gods of the dragons? Okay, so fan theory here.
Or are they?
All the dragons are the Irids are the gods of the dragons because they are magic. That's going to help us seamlessly transition into actually we do the spotlight next. So spotlight just really quickly. In episode 1, we talked about Josh Houston. That's what I'm going with. That's why I'm saying his name.
Perfect.
Possibly playing Xaden. Well, the plot has thickened. He posted on February 19th on Instagram with the caption of burnout, showing a battery that's like fully charged and one
Mhm.
that's drained. And the comments are just going wild because they're like, burnout. Why would you use such specific language, Josh? So people are really thinking that if he is not Xaden, he has definitely been casted to play at least someone in Fourth Wing. This is the picture if you guys are wanting to see it. It's just him at the beach. He's at a concert. Good for him. Really living life. Oh, and he's training. He's training for the war. What war? Don't
It's
know.
on the mat.
The next thing is this is just a personal opinion in this spotlight, but I have seen it on TikTok. So I guess TikTok. So I guess it's not personal. It's actually public opinion. But I think Florence Pugh would be the perfect casting as Mira.
Ooh.
I want her as Mira.
I don't see her. I don't know who she is. Help
You don't
me.
know who Florence Pugh is?
Don't call
She's
me
one of our
out.
sponsors. Just kidding. Florence Pugh does not sponsor this podcast. But if she wants to,
I could see her as Mira. That'd be cute.
it would be. I have to get.
But then Violet. Oh, yes.
They have. There's someone they also think has been casted for Violet, but I can't think of that girl's name. But Florence Pugh. I'm gonna start a Facebook group called "Make Florence Pugh Mira in Fourth Wing," and everyone could join it if you'd like. 2 quick fan theories. First one, I saw it on TikTok. Violet will be able to kill people in real life while dreaming. I 100% agree with this. When she is having those dreams where she's actually in Xaden's dream and she says she can feel the general touching her, and she's
Yeah.
like, that's new. I think he's a dreamwalker. Like, that's his signet as Venin. And I think that she'll be able to touch and kill people in their dreams too, which why it makes her signet so scary.
Mm-hmm.
I also had another theory about dream walking for Violet
Okay.
that I thought of.
Yeah,
When
you're a fan,
probably-
and it is a theory.
I think Violet and Xaden are going to be able to communicate through
Through their dreams,
their
yes.
dreams.
We're gonna see some hooking up through dreams, just like
Yeah.
we've seen in other famous book series.
Oh my gosh,
And-
they're going to be able to do dream talking.
The second theory, Naolin is the Venin general.
Yeah, I'm here for that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
That one wouldn't
It
even
was an
shock
easy
me.
convincing for
Yeah.
me. I am saying it as almost fact, just because I can't remember any of the reasons why I read it, but I believe this to be true.
Wait, is he the Berwyn guy? Berwyn?
Berwyn.
No,
And-
who's Berwyn? He's
Berwyn's
just the
the
mage.
sage. Yeah,
Oh,
he's
the
sage.
sage.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
Haven
everyone thinks that
sage.
no one refers to Naolin as actually dead. So
No.
everyone thinks that he is Venin. So everyone is now assuming that he is the Venin general.
I
And
think
that Brennan will be the great betrayer because he will try to do something to save Naolin.
That's why Jack's still alive. Let's be real.
that's why Brennan has to die.
What if Jack the Whack is actually like the good guy in all this?
He
At the end of
probably
the-
is,
At
and
the
I'm
end of the
surprised.
series, it's like, and then
That's the
Jack
real-
saved everyone.
That's the real plot twist is Jack comes back.
Some redemption
Jack
arc.
comes back. That's book 5. Jack comes back. Okay, we're losing it. So I think that's a good time for Jenna to go ahead and wrap it up.
Now let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Next week, we will be talking about chapters 33 through 40 of Onyx Storm. And be sure and check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Tune in every Friday, wherever you get your podcast, for a new episode of Book Thoughts. Book Thoughts.
Book Thots.